Free agency is come and gone. The draft is over. So what's left on the Packers' to-do list with this roster?
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. I was inspired today by spring cleaning. You go through and you figure out, okay, you need this, don't need this, could really use an upgrade here. Oh, I haven't taken this t-shirt out in a while. Does this still fit? Can I get in a little bit better shape and this polo will wear a little bit better on me? So I was thinking then about the Packers roster. They did some shopping through the draft, through free agency. Now, of course, they had to throw some things away. They had to donate some things. They had to part with some things as well. And sometimes these were hard decisions to make, right? Deciding Aaron Jones just no longer part of the plan. Like that sweater, I had a sweater that got destroyed by moths. Love that sweater. But it's toast now. Now, Aaron Jones is not toast, but sometimes you have to part with things that you don't want to. I'm torturing the metaphor here, I know. But as you go through the roster, I think when we came into the draft, we landed on corner as the position where you go, this is the player who would come in and maximally improve your roster, or at least that was the place where you potentially needed the most help. Now, Eric Stokes sounds like physically he looks great. That's according to the Packers. Interesting that they have not told us about what's going on with his fifth-year option as of this moment. They have a decision to make on that, and soon. I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, if he ends up with a Jordan Love type deal, where instead of that option, that $11 or $12 million, it's right in that range option, they say, okay, here's a little bit more money now, spread that money out a little bit, and then give the fifth year to be under contract before they have to make a long-term decision on what Eric Stokes is for this organization. Clearly, the team believes they're in a good position at corner with Carrington Valentine and Corey Ballantyne, who just changed his number to Darnell Savage's old 26. And then you add in whatever role Javon Bullard is going to play, Keyshawn Nixon, Evan Williams and Keaton Oladapo. Sounds like they are mostly safeties, but Brian Gutekunst has told us safeties are going to play nickel and vice versa. And so we'll see how that all plays out. For the moment, I suppose then we have to take them at their word. They are comfortable with this cornerback room. And I will say, I saw enough from Eric Stokes in his rookie season, believe enough in the talent and believe in the scheme fit in what we expect Jeff Hafley to do to say, I understand at the very least. Is it what I would have done? Probably not. But I understand the Packers saying, we have confidence in this player. The same is true of Carrington Valentine, who was just a rookie. He showed that he is a capable corner, a more than capable corner potentially as soon as this year. We know Jair Alexander, what he is, and Keyshawn Nixon is a serviceable nickel corner. I don't know if he's more than that right now, but maybe in a defense where he can be a little bit more aggressive, play with his eyes more to the quarterback. He is a playmaker. And then Kalen King is the wild card here because they really got a middle round type of prospect who in last year's draft, if he had declared, would have been a first round prospect. That's real pedigree. And so I suppose I understand where they're coming from. Now, the other position that we talked about was that interior offensive line, or if they're moving Zach Tom, it became a tackle question. Well, now you have Jordan Morgan. That's a big one. But we still have this interior offensive line issue that the Packers have to address. Is Jacob Monk going to be enough there? I doubt it. They did not upgrade over Josh Myers. We'll see what Sean Rhyan can be, but that's the place where you have the most question marks. What is the guard position going to look like? What is the center position going to look like? And is that the place on this roster where Jordan Morgan can slot in? And this is why this is why the Packers like players like Jordan Morgan, because schematically, movement skills wise, traits wise, he fits as someone who can play guard. And so if you have a Sean Rhyan problem, I'm still bullish on Sean Rhyan, but he's an unknown. So if you have a Sean Rhyan problem, you have a player on the roster who in a perfect world is not your 2024 right guard. But if you have a problem, has the potential to be a much better option than Royce Newman, for example. That's good news. And then linebacker was the obvious spot with safety, the spine of the defense. Well, the Packers poured resources into that. Xavier McKinney, Javon Bullard, Evan Williams, Keaton Oladapo. And though 3 of those players are rookies, you bring back Anthony Johnson Jr., I think that the arrival of Xavier McKinney makes it easier to imagine a scenario where those other guys are able to play well because his presence just makes life easier for everyone else. And then you add in the addition at linebacker, where the linebackers play can make jobs a little easier for the safeties, whether it's in run support or whether it's movement skills in zone coverage, making sure they're closing down space so that no one has to overcover. No one has to commit to more than their assignment. When you have to, this was the problem DeAndre Campbell said the defense was having under Joe Barry is he being Dre, felt like he would have to cover up for other people's mistakes. And that leads to problems. So if you're getting better linebacker play, that trickles back to safety play and makes the safety's job easier to say, okay, well, we can just be in positions to make the plays that we need to make. Adrian Cooper can help with the run defense. Better safety play can help with the run defense. Year 2 for Carl Brooks and Kobe Wooden can help with the run defense. Devontae Wyatt, a full offseason now, a full year as the starter. What kind of development can he make? Lucas Van Ness being a bigger part of the rotation. And then offensively, there are just very few questions. Jordan Love, the running backs are great. The skill groups, I mean, there was a graphic the other day, the NFC North skill groups, and I was like, the Packers are the only team that can claim like 4 or 5 guys. Feel like they're snubs. Dontavian Wicks wasn't even on the graphic. Neither of the tight ends, TJ Hawkinson was on the graphic, Sam Laporta was on the graphic, but like Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft were really good last year. They weren't as good as Sam Laporta was because Luke Musgrave didn't stay healthy and because they didn't run the offense as much through Sam Laporta as the Lions did. But those are really, really good players. This offense is loaded. It's loaded. It's 5 deep at receiver. It's at least 2 deep at tight end. It's potentially, with Marshawn Lloyd, 3 deep at running back. You have a 5 on the offensive line that was already good last year. You just added Jordan Morgan to it, and now you have Jordan Love in year 2 as a starter, a full offseason for your coaching staff to get to know these guys, the rookies that Jaden Reed and Wicks and Heath and Bo Melton again. It's really exciting. They went through and they addressed basically every critical need that we thought they were going to have. And they just didn't view corner as a need the way that we did. And part of that is because Eric Stokes' health. It makes more sense for them to say, hey, we spent a first round pick on this guy. We believe in his talent. We're going to give him every opportunity. That's fine. You may be in a position in a year where that looks foolish, but they're going to ride with their guys. And I think Carrington Valentine showed you enough that you feel like, okay, you've got 3 plus Javon Bullard can play the nickel, that you're okay. We'll see if they're okay. And speaking of building this roster, the Packers have done it in a way that should not be surprising because it is familiar to Packers fans. We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Packers. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is now the authorized marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip off. With killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. With last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. They've also got Major League Baseball tickets. Easy to find and buy MLB tickets or any other kind of event in your area. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And with the lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Brian Gutekunst is building this team the way that Ted Thompson built this team. And Brian Gutekunst is much more willing to use free agency. But when it comes to the draft, the Packers are doing it with volume. With volume. Justice Mosqueda wrote about this over at Acme Packing Company today. Between 2022 and 2024, no one made more picks than the Green Bay Packers. They made 13 selections in the first 3 rounds of the draft. Only the Cardinals made more. And they had 22 selections in rounds 4 through 7. Only the Rams made more. And when you look back at this roster, the way that it was built, Romeo Doubs, day 3 pick. Carl Brooks, day 3 pick. Zach Tom, day 3 pick. Devontae Wyatt, Carrington Valentine. It's not that that's a sustainable way to build your team, is you just say, okay, well, we're just going to hit on all these day 3 picks. No. But volume increases your chances of finding someone. If you give yourself 10 chances to find a starter on day 3, the chances of you finding one are better than if you have 5 chances. The scouting world is more art than science. And sometimes it is just luck. It is just being able to throw darts and throw darts and throw darts and throw darts. And eventually you will find some in the right place. If you pin enough tails on that piece of paper, eventually one will be in the right space on the donkey, right? So this is what Ted Thompson did. And I remember Bill Barnwell about 10 years ago wrote a story about how it was the Packers and the Patriots. No one created more value by trading down and then trading for picks than those two teams. And so people always complained, why is Ted trading down? Why are they doing that? Well, last year's draft is the perfect example. You trade out of the pick that eventually becomes Jaden Reed. You acquire more picks. You trade back multiple times, acquire more picks. And eventually you get Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Carl Brooks. If you don't have those extra selections, maybe you don't take a shot on Carl Brooks. Maybe you only have Kobe Wooden. If you don't have those extra picks, maybe you don't take a shot on Dontavian Wicks. You only have Jaden Reed. Now, Jaden Reed, good player. Nice player to have. But it'd be even better to have Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. Kobe Wooden, nice player, good player to have. It's even better to have Kobe Wooden and Carl Brooks. And we can think of myriad examples of day 3 picks not working out. Most of them don't work out. But again, if most don't work out, okay, let's say you make 10 picks. 9 of them probably won't work. And you're left with one good player out of 10 picks. Let's say you make 20 picks and the same percentage doesn't work out. Well, that's more players on your roster. So the strategy is just as much about giving yourself more opportunities. Now, eventually you have to pick players. Like, you can't just trade down and trade down and trade down. Eventually you have to pick players. And luckily the Packers have been on a heater of finding these day 3 players. Again, it's not a sustainable way. You can't build a whole team out of day 3. It just doesn't work. You're not going to hit often enough to build a roster of 22 plus the right number of backups that you're going to need to deal with the attrition of an NFL season. That just doesn't work. You're not going to find a quarterback and a star receiver and a pass rusher and the odds are it's not going to work. That doesn't work. But it is a great way to build on the margins and to give yourselves opportunities at these upside plays. Dontavian Wicks could legitimately become wide receiver 1 on this team, but they don't need him to be. They don't. If he's just a very nice number 3 receiver, that is huge extra value. It is an enormous boon for the team to have Carl Brooks as a secondary pass rusher and penetrator when, if he were just a rotational defensive lineman, that'd be fine. He's more than that. So they have also gotten lucky here over the last few years, and they're going to need to continue to do this. This is one of the reasons why I brought this up. Because Jordan Love is about to get $50 million a year. And it's going to become much more difficult and much more reliant on the draft. Just look at what the Chiefs have done. They've said, look, we're paying Patrick Mahomes. Jordan Love's not Patrick Mahomes, but we're paying Patrick Mahomes. Tyreek Hill, sorry, can't afford you anymore. Not really interested in allocating our resources there. L'Jarius Sneed, not really interested in allocating our resources there. Trade him. We think we can draft and develop these guys. And they have. They rebuilt this defense through the draft. And it's not just with first round picks. Like George Karlaftis is like one of the least impressive of their draft and develop stories on that defense. So this is an important start to what is going to have to be a trend moving forward. And so expect more. Packers traded down from 41 to 45 to get Edgerrin Cooper. Well, Edgerrin Cooper, I think, is going to be a really good player for Green Bay. But it's possible that that trade down has the same sort of impact. We didn't know in the moment that double trade down with Jayden Reed was going to become as impactful as it is. But it has. And that's why you do it. You give yourselves more opportunities. The Packers are going to have to continue to do it because they're not going to continue to hit at the same rate. They're not going to find Zach Tom and Romeo Doubs and Kingsley Enagbare and Rasheed Walker on day 3 every year. They're not going to find Dontavian Wicks and Carl Brooks on day 3 every year. So you have to be able to give yourselves a bunch of chances over time, and then hopefully you get lucky enough that it works. I want to look at the Packers draft, speaking of the draft, through the lens of the NFC North. We will do that in just a second on Locked On Packers. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. We already talked about that. But there's just so much good stuff in the game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much more to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko game. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So don't sit on the bench. Get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. The Chicago Bears draft was annoyingly competent. And it was more than competent. It was awesome. Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, that would be enough. That would be a whole draft class. And part of it is they got generationally lucky that passing on the chance to draft CJ Stroud did not bite them in the ass. They wanted to ride the Justin Fields train one more year, and that could have been a huge mistake. And it ends up being the best decision Ryan Poles ever made. And that's only true because the Panthers also passed on drafting CJ Stroud, and they, in fact, draft Bryce Young. It doesn't work out. They're the worst team in the league by far, and they gift the Chicago Bears Caleb Williams. If the Panthers draft CJ Stroud, they probably win 3 or 4 games, and the Bears are stuck in QB purgatory, probably not bad enough to get one of these top 3 quarterbacks, and they don't have Caleb Williams. But that's not what happened. They got Caleb Williams. That's annoying because he's really good, and so is Rome Odunze. And the two of those together, I don't like it. I don't like it. Doesn't mean I think they're better than the Packers, no. And I also like Kieran Amagaji, the tackle they got from Yale. As a pure tackle, I liked him better as a prospect than Jordan Morgan. I thought Jordan Morgan was a guard. Now, they also drafted a punter. And so that, like, for the lulz, I appreciated that. This Bears roster is looking much better than I would like from a Packers perspective. And this draft is a huge reason why. The Packers, not like they're going to worry about it. They still have the best quarterback in the division until further notice. And Emmanuel Acho's already out there like, this is a top 3 offense in the NFC already. Like, can Caleb Williams play for like 2 minutes? We have to do the Lions because Packers are chasing the Lions. The Lions draft is, There's a lot of things to like about it. I really liked the Terrion Arnold pick for them. I liked Terrion Arnold in general. I liked Ennis Rakestraw. I don't know if Terrion Arnold is a perfect fit for the Lions in terms of the scheme that they want to play. I thought he was a better zone corner than man corner, so maybe they're going to change the way that they play. They traded future draft capital for a Canadian. I don't know why they did that. I thought that was a very weird move. They drafted Sione Vaki, the safety from Utah. If I'm not mistaken, they announced him as a running back. I hope they let him play running back. That would be hilarious. I really liked Christian Mahogany. There's some injury issues there, apparently. This was more in line with what I thought a team would do in the Lions position versus what the Lions would actually do. Like, what they did last year was bizarre. I didn't think this was bizarre. The Manu pick was bizarre. So Brad Holmes had to sprinkle a little bit of that in there. But overall, they addressed a key need at corner, and they're better at that spot in particular than they were before the draft. The Vikings. Look, the Vikings did a better thing than they could have done. I'll say that. Like, JJ McCarthy is going to be fine. I think he's in a really good position to succeed in this offense. I like him as a prospect, 20 years old. I think his ceiling is capped, but it's capped at like a solid to good player. Like, I think he can be a good player. If he can beat Kirk Cousins, that's fine. Like, you can win games with Kirk Cousins. The Vikings showed that. The Dallas Turner thing, I was not a huge Dallas Turner fan. I thought he was a first round player, but the top 10 stuff never made sense to me. They gave up a lot in what ends up being 2 trade-ups to get Dallas Turner. A first-round pick, future value, to get Dallas Turner. That's just bad process to me. Especially for a player that I didn't think was worth that kind of thing. Like, not a top 5 kind of player in this class, or any class, frankly. Now, I have to say, I really liked Kyrie Jackson. A little surprised that the Vikings liked Kyrie Jackson, given the way that they want to play. But look, Brian Flores is good at this. He's much better at it than I am. So I kind of just like want to see what that looks like. It's annoying that a player that I really was interested in being in Green Bay ends up in Minnesota. I don't think the Vikings draft made them past the Packers. I don't think the Lions draft set them apart from the Packers in any meaningful way. And I don't think the Bears draft means that they have now caught the Packers. I'm going to pick the Packers to win this division. I think they are the best team in the division because I think they have the best coach in the division. I think they have the best quarterback in the division. And I think those combinations tend to win out more often than not. But this is going to be a fun division this year. JJ McCarthy, Caleb Williams, this is the time. This is the time. We're going to talk more about that. This is the time. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow on Locked On Packers. A next episode tease. Let's do this. I mentioned the rookie orientation series. Those are coming. Maybe even this week. We will see. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on all the social medias, on X, Locked On Packers, on Instagram, Locked On Packers, on TikTok, Locked On Packers, on YouTube, Locked On Packers. Go subscribe over on our YouTube page. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts so you can stay Locked On Packers.